Quite possibly India's toughest day of the series so far, a day which did give us an all-timer image with Rishabh Pant walking out to bat, fractured foot and whatnot. But it ends with England in a position of ascendancy after day 2 at Old Trafford. Sanjay Manjrekar joins us on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. Sanjay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Not going to mince the words here. This is possibly India's most lackluster bowling display of the series.
Yes, and it's something that you can conclude or surmise if you do a casual analysis of that performance, and you can see a lot of people thinking that. But I'm going to delve a little deeper. For me, Bumrah is the yardstick to judge by as to how the pitch was and the conditions were. Bumrah again looked like a bowler in a different league where he was menacing and the rest didn't support. Then you would say, disappointing. But India's bowling performance had a lot to do with how the conditions changed as well. When India started bowling, it was vastly different from when England bowled with the first new ball and the second new ball.
Overhead becomes such a factor when we talk about Test cricket in England. So can we attribute a large part of what happened on day 2 to England getting the better of the conditions to bowl in?
Not just the overhead conditions, I'm sure that plays a part. And India, mostly batted in the dark. But I think the pitch as well. I mean, this is a very unique pitch in England, Old Trafford and Oval as well to an extent, where there's always been pace and bounce, but not too much of that spongy kind of bounce and lateral movement. I think you'll see up and down variation bounce, but it just became such a good batting pitch. And, good balls were being hit on the up for 4. The outfield seems to have quickened up. Now, right through the series, there's one thing that we haven't quite seen is batters hitting on the up. So it was a bit like Asian pitches where, you can take that freedom and just, as they say, express yourself as a batter. So those were the kind of conditions that the Indian bowlers were bowling. Having said that, you would also say that a couple of bowlers, or if not 3 bowlers, could have bowled better.
So what was it that they got wrong? Because from the outside, it looked like India were erring with their lines, perhaps more so than they have at any point in this series before this?
Yes, and I think the main moment at the start of the innings was Anil Kamboj bowling, which was, a good idea in principle. You want to give all the confidence to a new bowler, given the new ball. They must have seen him bowl with the new ball in the nets and in the warm-up games as well. So went with him, but there was Ben Duckett, who decided that he's going to make the debutant's life miserable. And it just started in that fashion. I thought Bumrah bowled 2, as in he really dug deep. Bowled 2 long spells of 5 overs each where you thought he was giving it everything. Slowly, I think he will change his tack and be a little more patient. But he gave his best, and even he couldn't extract the kind of help that we were expecting. So how can you, fault an Anil Kamboj or Mohammed Siraj and Shardul Thakur? So yeah, tough conditions, and India do not have, barring Bumrah, a Mohammed Shami or the kind of world-class bowling attack, seam bowling attack that India had in the past.
We can go to tactics, especially when you're in the face of unrelenting conditions or unrelenting batters in front of you. You bring up giving the new ball to Kamboj ahead of a Siraj. There's also no spin in the first 25 overs, no Washington Sundar till about 35-36 overs. Questionable?
It is something you've got to take as a trait of Shubman Gill's captaincy. When you look at how he goes about bowling changes in the first 40-45 overs, it shows his preference, the kind of bowlers he believes can make an impression or he thinks could get you a wicket, and tends to go with those bowlers a lot. And then as an afterthought, which I've said before as well, he goes to spin. To be fair, in this innings, he went to spin a little early and got the reward for it. But that's his trait, which I'm sure with time will change. Because when you look at the bowling figures, the overs bowled should only reflect the way the bowlers have bowled, rather than the captain thinking that this is my guy, he's going to get me wickets, and he's bowled a lot of overs and not quite making an impression or proving to be a little expensive. I thought Shardul Thakur bowled an extra over because somewhere he must have felt, let me give an opportunity to this guy who was under bowled in the first Test match that he played. So it's work in progress, his captaincy. But he had 6 bowling options, and once he saw the reality of the pitch, it was a very simple mechanical thing to do, to give short spells to all his 6 bowlers, including his 2 pure spinners.
Learning on the job, perhaps another important facet of Shubman Gill's new job, as indeed any other job. Is it fair to bring the absence of Rishabh Pant as well? Because in moments where batting teams start dominating, it feels much more quiet with no Rishabh Pant around.
Yes, and this is also, you've got to remember Virat Kohli as captain. Tactically, and when he picked his playing 11, he may not have been the best, as in people may not have agreed with it, but there was never a flat looking Indian team, even if they were catching up with the opposition. He made sure that spirit was that. Don't say that the Indian team looked flat. These were difficult conditions, but Rishabh Pant makes a difference being on the field, and Shubman Gill hasn't had his company on the field for a while, and especially with that review, I'm sure Rishabh Pant would have had maybe a different view on that, because that was where again you saw a bit of naivety setting in, where Siraj, as always, was excited, and Shubman Gill immediately gave the green signal for a review, where they've lost a review very early in the innings.
Quick thoughts on Ben Duckett and Crawley, that 166-run association. Important knock for Crawley, who hadn't been in the runs.
Yes, and the pitch had a lot to do with it. But he's a tall guy, and it's very interesting when you watch these 2 opening batters play and dominate. They've got different ways of dominating. He's in your face, Crawley. He's on the front foot, hits straight down the pitch. And Ben Duckett is one of those, people like guerrilla warfare. Finds ways to make the same kind of impact without seeming too intimidating. So yeah, great combination. I just love the fact that they were focused on just dominating the Indian bowling. It had some respect given to Bumrah, but still constantly thinking of runs.
And now if we go back to the early part of the day, where of course the pictures that the world has seen by now, Rishabh Pant, story of the day for walking out. But what do you make of what was eventually the culmination of that Indian batting effort?
I think a lot of the damage was done before today, because as I said, India got the tougher conditions to bat in. The big moment was Jadeja getting out, early with the second new ball, because it's a very difficult defensive technique to breach, as we found out. And had he stayed longer, and then you would have had Shardul, Thakur, a bit of Rishabh Pant and Washi, and things would have been slightly different. But the way the pitch has panned out and the way English batters have batted, I guess for now, the first innings, you could say India could have batted better, but India was just batting in different bowling conditions.
And Ben Stokes made the most of it. There were 3 wickets for Archer, but Ben Stokes with a 5-for, the first by an English pacer as captain since 1983. That was Bob Willis back in the day. Advantage England, clearly.
Yes, and I'm willing to also stick my neck out and say that I see them getting a huge score, because there is every sign for that to happen. Cricket these days is very difficult to predict, in modern day Test cricket especially, but it looks like India will have to look at a big lead going into the second innings.
Yeah, I remember your words from day 1. I'm not asking you any prediction before day 3 at the bare minimum. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for your time. Advantage England after day 2 in Manchester.